MestreCast, analytical chemistry software in a fast-changing world, with Santi Dominguez.
Hello, everyone. This is Santi Dominguez, CEO of Mestre Lab Research, and today we're getting together for what is now episode number 8 of the MestreCast, which, for those of you who have been following for previous episodes, is mainly concerned with the opportunities for automation and digitalization in the laboratory space, which is where Mestre Lab has traditionally played. And when it comes to, I think, particularly automation, although automation and digitalization always go together, so they're somewhat hard to separate. But when it comes particularly to automation, I think I'm very excited by my guest today, because to me, lab automation, one of the first names that immediately jumps at me is Chemspeed Technologies, which is a company that not long ago joined the wider Bruker family. And I have with me Matthias Scherboing, who is the Chief Technical Officer of Chemspeed Technologies. And I think Matthias is actually joining us from the Chemspeed office in Fullingsdorf. Hi, Matthias. How are you?
Hi, Santi. Thanks for having me. Great to be here and discuss the exciting developments in enabling automation, digitalization in both research development and quality control.
Very good to have you too, Matthias, and thank you for giving us the time. I think this will be very interesting to our audience. But before we really get talking about Chemspeed and we were talking about automation proper, I really would love to hear about your own personal journey. So, what led you to become the CTO of Chemspeed, and why the passion for laboratory automation?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so my journey has been quite interesting. As I started at the intersection of chemistry and engineering during my studies, and I think this unique position exposed me to work in chemical laboratories, where I witnessed firsthand how many processes were still being conducted manually, especially in the academic settings. And it was quite eye-opening to see these highly skilled chemists and scientists spending countless hours on repetitive tasks that could potentially be automated. And at the end of the day, they just transcribe data from their lab notebooks into digital formats. So after my studies, this experience really shaped my perspective. And then when I first, in my first role, I joined a startup and we made it our mission to automate as many repetitive tasks as possible, aiming to free up these valuable resources for innovation. And it was also during this time that I had my first encounter with Chemspeed. So I first was a customer specifically for solid handling, and I was impressed by their technology and the approach to automation. And so when later Chemspeed approached me, it was a very easy decision. Our vision of transforming laboratory workflows through automation aligned perfectly with my own experience and aspirations. And what really drives me is seeing how our solutions can free scientists from routine tasks and allowing them, to really focus on innovation and novel products, better processes.
Okay, great. And it's very interesting because I kind of feel very much the same way. I'm very aligned. I think what you are saying very much resonates with the own Mestre Lab story, and also what's now become SAI as a division of Bruker that includes Mestre Lab. We've really seen how digital transformation can revolutionize research workflows, and I think the objective is always the same. We have these very highly skilled people that has cost a huge amount of money to educate, who have the ability to do extremely creative things that can have a huge impact on the lives of many people, a huge impact on society. And quite often we make them spend most of their time doing extremely mundane, somewhat boring, and certainly repetitive stuff, right? And automation has a great role to play here. I think laboratory automation is still, I think it's fair to say, it's still fairly new as a thing, although, of course, it's been around for a while. And maybe we're going to start there. Maybe you can walk us through some of the most significant changes you've seen in laboratory automation over the last 5, 10 years, whatever you think is an appropriate timeline?
Yeah, so the evolution has been quite remarkable, Santi. 10 years ago, I would say lab automation was more isolated. And today we're talking about intelligent, connected systems that can adapt to different experimental conditions, but also learn from previous runs, integrate seamlessly into all these different data analysis platforms and data platforms in general. But I would say the most transformative development has been establishment of closed loop, fully integrated product development robots. So particularly Chemspeed's Flex Shuttle, FlexBot technology. This really represents a paradigm shift from traditional automation islands, which, often created workflow bottlenecks to a seamless end-to-end solution. And these Flex Shuttle and FlexBot systems, they eliminate these bottlenecks by connecting different stages of the development process, from synthesis to characterization to formulation, testing, and application in one single integrated platform. So you have total lab connectivity from single atoms to performance. And this means samples can move automatically between different stages without human intervention, which dramatically reduces cycle time, but also increases reproducibility. And, if you compare that to early automation systems, they were often rigid, designed for a single type of experiments. And now our platforms can handle multiple chemistry workflows, from synthesis to formulation, but even combine chemistry with product testing. So what you would normally see, on the biology side with bioassays. And this flexibility is crucial because modern research doesn't fit anymore into these neat boxes. So there's increasing overlap between different scientific disciplines, and novel fields are emerging from that.
Yeah, once again, and after all, this is the MestreCast, so I continuously refer to software, and people would be shocked if I didn't do that. But I think in software we see very much the same thing, which is modularity is critical, and flexibility in workflow automation is also something that certainly MestreLab is putting a lot of effort into. And maybe I want to talk about software a little bit. So, obviously, hardware automation does not live in isolation in the laboratory, right? There has to be a software element. So how do you see that relationship between the hardware and the software evolving?
Yeah, so I think this is where things really get excited. So hard and software are becoming increasingly intertwined. And it's no longer enough to have excellent robotics or excellent robots. You need intelligent software that can make sense of all the data that's being generated and help to optimize the processes in real time. And let me give you a concrete example here. We recently worked with a company that is developing new materials, and they integrated one of our swing robots with advanced analytics software. And so the system doesn't just run the experiments, it uses the machine learning algorithms to analyze results and suggests optimal conditions for the next round of experiment. And this kind of intelligent automation has reduced their development time by 60%, while increasing the success rate of their experiments, which I think is quite dramatic shift if you look at it.
And this is something I love about automation, in fact, Matthias, which is that quite often you can quite readily measure what the impact of implementing is, right? To me, it's fantastic how you can immediately refer to 60%. So it's not just a soft, I think this is better, or I think we're more productive or more creative, but very much you can put a number to it, which obviously speaks very, very clearly to ROI as well. And to me, that example you're giving, which, in a way, is one of the most obvious integrations that you could have between hardware and software, right? Because you need to analyze what the hardware is achieving for you to be able to continuously optimize how the hardware is working. So that's eminently logical. But I think integration is the name of the game there, right? And can you talk maybe a little bit more about how, in the specific case of Chemspeed, how you guys approach integration challenges? Because there are a lot of other tools, a lot of other softwares, and even a lot of other hardwares out there that may merit integration at different points, right? I would imagine it's not always easy to get these teams to work together seamlessly. And quite often in software, at least I find that the more seamless to the user, the harder for the developers. So, can you maybe tell us a little bit about integration challenges and how you handle them?
Yeah, sure. You're absolutely right. So integration is one of our biggest challenges, but it's also where we see the most potential for innovation, right? So we've developed open APIs, standard protocols that make it easier to connect to our systems with various software platforms, machine learning, AI, but also analytical instruments. So the key is understanding that no two labs are identical, which each of them has its unique workflow, existing infrastructure, specific requirements. And we, now have this more consultative approach, working very closely with our clients and to understand their entire workflow and design solution that fit their specific needs. And that's, from the infrastructure, from their software stack to the hardware that they want to get.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you're talking about things that are very close to my heart, like a standard protocols or even a standard data formats is something we talk about a lot on the software side of things. Open APIs, I think, again, is I think we've gone well past the time when we had to convince people that was important, and hopefully most scientists, at least scientists these days, understand their value. And of course, you're talking about specific needs in specific organizations, right? Because workflows are a little different. No two labs are the same, which is I think it's a great sentence. But I'm interested especially in, okay, so let's say that a lab has decided that they want to automate, right? And they want to go in that direction. This is not an easy transition, I would imagine, right? You're going from a manual workflow to something which is very different. And I guess there is a significant cultural element to this as well as the technology itself, right? So how do you help these organizations manage that transition?
Yep. So I think that's really a crucial point. The technical implementation is often easier or the easier part, and the bigger challenge is helping the organizations adapt a new way of working. And we've learned that successful automation projects require, I would say, three main elements. So the first is clear communication about what automation can and especially cannot do. It's important to set realistic expectations and help teams understand that the automation is a tool to enhance their capabilities and not, replace their expertise. Second, I would say comprehensive training that goes beyond just operating the equipment. We help teams, understand the principles behind automation so they can troubleshoot effectively and optimize their workflows on their own. And third, a phased implementation approach. So we usually start with simple processes and gradually expand as the team becomes more comfortable with technology. And this builds confidence and allows for natural evolution of these workflows over time.
Okay, great. Very interesting. And, I have to say that when I love the kind of thing that you guys can do, visiting your site in Fullingsdorf is a fascinating experience, and obviously, and seeing your technology, I see it in many labs, I think is very popular for good reason. So I do see it quite often around, but I'm very interested in looking forward, right? So we've made it thus far, let's say, right? And what you guys have is amazing for the time that we live in, but things are progressing faster and faster, and maybe it will be interesting to ask you, what trends do you see shaping the next generation of laboratory automation? So what is that, and how does it differ from what you were able to have today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I see three major trends or shifts that will reshape lab automation. And the first one is we see a strong pull towards a data-centric approach, which in my perspective makes a lot of sense. And
well, now you're talking about my book, so I love to hear that.
Yeah. So the focus is increasingly on delivering fair data. So just for our listeners, not for you, Santi, that's findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable data from experiments. And I think this is crucial because, the value of automation isn't just in the physical execution of tasks, but also in generating high quality standardized data that can drive better decision making combined with the knowledge preservation. The second one, I would say, we're seeing a move towards more modularity in our automation solution, rather than, these massive monolithic systems that we've seen in the past. A lot of labs are adopting smaller, more specialized automation islands, but that are then, on the other hand, also connected through sophisticated interlogistic systems. So, what you see a lot is mobile robots, for example, which, offers more flexibility, also more scalability, and is allowing labs to adapt their automation infrastructure as their needs evolve over time. And the third and last one, which is particularly exciting, we're moving away from, the concept of fully automated labs to a more collaborative model where people and robots, they work side by side. And I think this hybrid approach recognizes that while robots, excel at these repetitive, precise tasks, the human creativity and decision-making are just irreplaceable, at least, at a certain price point. And the future lab is one where automation augments human capabilities rather than replacing them.
Okay, so data, modularity, and human in the loop, I guess we could say, if we were to summarize it in just human in the loop, I was going to say 3 words, but now it is 4 words. And those trends, again, align very well with what we're seeing in the software space. So you see those trends. Obviously, you are sitting in the eye of the storm a little bit, being one of the key suppliers for laboratory automation in chemistry at the moment. How does Chemspeed prepare for these future developments?
Yeah, so we are actively aligning our development efforts with these trends. So on the data front, we are investing heavily in our software infrastructure to ensure that all of our systems generate standardized, fair, compliant data. This includes developing more sophisticated data capture capabilities, improving our integration with lab information management systems and electronic lab notebooks, such as what you have in your portfolio. In terms of modularity, we are redesigning our platforms to be more flexible, more interconnectable. Our new generation of automation solution can be easily integrated with, whatever interlogistic systems that you want to choose, which allows laboratories to create custom automation networks that suit their specific workflows. We're also developing smarter interfaces between these modules to ensure seamless sample and data transfer. And for the, collaboration, human-robot interface, we are focusing on making our systems more intuitive and collaborative. This includes developing better user interfaces, implementing advanced safety features that allow closer human-robot interactions, and creating tools that make it easier for scientists to program and especially modify automated workflows without, too deep of technical expertise. And the goal, of course, is to make automation technology more accessible and adaptable to the way scientists actually work in a broad manner.
Great. And, especially with the first line of efforts, I think we are collaborating, SAI and Chemspeed are collaborating quite extensively, and hopefully we can bring something into the party there. I have to say it's one of my favorite use cases, because in a way, running a digital business sometimes means that you lack the ability to directly interact with the physical world, right? But through collaborating with Chemspeed, we get that we are no longer like the ghost in Ghost. We can actually, really interact with the physical world, which for me is very exciting, and somehow it allows us to maybe show impact even in a more obvious way. This is a question I ask everybody that comes on the podcast whenever it is relevant, because I think it's an important one. And is what advice would you give? So, in this case, what advice would you give to a laboratory that is starting in their automation journey? They know they want to go there. What is important? What are the do's and don'ts? What have you guys learned from your customer base that can be, maybe we can save people a little bit of effort and wasted effort by listening to this advice?
Yeah, so my key advice would be to start with a clear vision of what you want to achieve. But equally important, I think, is having the right team in place. So one crucial aspect that many organizations overlook is the need for dedicated and passionate automation, let's say scientists, so that could be a chemist, engineer, technician. So the specialists that actually bridge the gap between chemistry or science and the automation technology itself. And, they understand both the science and the automation platforms at the same time. And what I see, especially, in Europe, is encouraging and that many universities now invest in a curricula specifically designed to train automation experts. This reflects a growing recognition that lab automation requires a unique skill set, combining chemical knowledge with automation expertise. And when starting your automation journey, either hire these specialists or invest in training your existing team in automation skills. Then also, start small, but plan for the scalability. So choose initial projects that have a clear success metric and can demonstrate value quickly. That will help you a lot in the broader, corporate world. Having also dedicated automation chemists will help you identify the right starting point and ensure proper implementation from the beginning. So this is also where Chemspeed, for example, can bring in experts to facilitate this process. And finally, look for a partner, of course, who understands your field and can provide long-term support. So automation, as I see it, is a journey, not a destination. And you want partners who can grow with you and help train your automation specialists.
Great. And yeah, I think particularly the all great points and very good advice. But I also pick up on this comment you make about our education system, kind of a little bit getting the memo and starting to maybe move away from the traditional curricula and trying to create this kind of hybrid or multidisciplinary training programs, which I think is applicable in many aspects of life. In a way, life is becoming a lot more complex these days, and multidisciplinarity is key to being able to solve problems, right? We used to think about multidisciplinarity in teams. Now we need multidisciplinarity in the same person, right, to make them really effective. So that's super interesting, and something maybe I'll try to do an episode on at some point later. So thank you for the idea, and thank you for coming and telling us a little bit about your insights and your view on lab automation for our listeners today. I suspect many would have found this fascinating. Knowing the especially the MestreLab customers, I think a few of them will be in these automation journeys, but maybe may not be there yet. Many of them will be in academia, maybe starting, maybe in smaller companies, which is an area where we do very well, and maybe they haven't had that capability. So I guess the obvious question is, if people want to know more about Chemspeed and how you work and what you're able to offer, where should they go and what's the best way to go about that, Matthias?
Yes, so I think a good starting point is visiting chemspeed.com. We regularly publish customer stories, but also videos, articles about lab automation there. And then also maybe the easier way is just follow us on LinkedIn, where we also post regular updates about our latest developments.
Yeah, and I have to say, I agree. I think the videos particularly are super cool. And obviously a video is never as good as actually going to a lab and seeing the technology in action. But still, the videos, I think, really give a perspective of what can be achieved. Matthias, thank you very much, I think, and thank you obviously to all the listeners. Please give us your comments, any questions you may have, etc. As you know, we're very happy to follow up to discuss more. Also to connect you to Matthias or to the Chemspeed team if you want to know more and you would like us to do that for you. This is episode 8. We've had today with us Matthias Cherboin from Fullingsdorf, representing Chemspeed Technologies in his capacity as CTO. It's been super interesting, at least for me. I'm sure for the audience too. Matthias, thanks so much for your time. And we will continue to watch Chemspeed's progress with great interest.
Thank you, Santi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, all the best.
You can find all MestreCast episodes at iVoox, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. And you can, of course, follow us in our MestreLab media channels on LinkedIn, X, Instagram, Facebook, etc. So please follow us, share us, and we look forward to seeing you attending future episodes.